Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. In our first story, the OP tried to give advice to his friends who reacted negatively. Well, their own fault. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. He could have said oops, and that would have been the end of it. This happened a few years ago. Some friends of my family visited the U.S. from abroad. The father was an amateur photographer and posted their travels on social media. One of the stops was a hike somewhere in, I think, Utah. There was a picture of his wife laying across the railroad tracks in some sort of pose. Now, trespassing on railroad tracks is illegal. Yes, you can cross, of course, but lingering or playing on the tracks is definitely a no-no. Being in the rail industry, I know a couple of drivers, engineers, who've been unfortunate enough to do irreparable damage to inattentive or deliberate trespassers. Trains cannot stop on a sixpence or steer out of the way, so I said something along the lines of, "Hey, nice photo, but please don't do it on railroad tracks," and thought that'd be the end of it. Silly me. Instead, he went into full meltdown mode about how it was none of my business, that he was perfectly safe, there's nothing wrong with it, etc., etc., but also, being fully public on social media, my rail friends and even his friends started to chime in, pointing out the error of his ways. And so it went. A silly argument that could have been solved with an "oops, won't do that again," but instead he started making up lies about me and my family. Yes, it's petty, and I should have backed off too. But it came to a head and he snapped, "Fine, report me if you're that bothered." "Oh, insult my family and dare me to report you? Okay, challenge accepted." So I emailed the big yellow Western Railroad company that doesn't particularly like train spotters / foamers generally, and trespassers especially. Or those they think are trespassing, with the photo evidence, latitude, longitude, date, time, subdivision, thanks EXIF, and their hotel and room number in Las Vegas, which is where they were now. Goodness knows why you'd post your room number in public, but there you go. Within an hour, the big yellow railroad company responded and thanked me for the information. They'd looked into the couple's profiles, but by that time the evidence had gone. Luckily, I'd downloaded the image beforehand. They said they'll add them to their database of known individuals, so if there was a future incident, they go down on them like a ton of bricks. All that for a crappy photo. I'm now blocked from their social media, and so's my wife for some bizarre reason, despite having nothing to do with the entire conversation. And our second story. I want someone fired for this. I'm an admin for the domiciliary care company, which mostly involves filling in forms, auditing files, and occasionally poring over documents to find compliance issues. We had recently set up a new branch in a nearby city who were sharing some of our resources while they got going, including me, OP. I arrived at work one day to find my boss, Dave, in her office with the manager of the new branch, Jane, discussing one of the new branch's employees, Nate. Dave: "Morning, OP. How do you fancy doing an investigatory meeting this morning? I'd minuted plenty of these meetings before, but being asked to run one was a first." Me: I guess I can. What do I need to know?" Dave: "Nate didn't turn up for work on Friday 2 weeks ago and wouldn't answer his phone." Jane: "He finally got in touch 2 days later, so I gave him a rota for last Friday, which he didn't turn up to either. It's unacceptable. I want someone fired for this. It had a huge impact on our operations and caused massive trouble for our other carers and clients. We could have lost our contract with the city council over this." Me: "Okay, what evidence do we have?" Jane: "I've got these emails about it, the rotas from both weeks, and his contract." Me: "Okay, guess I'll have a look over them. What time's the meeting?" Jane: 9:30. I look at my watch, it's now 9:15. Me: "Great. Plenty of time to prepare then." I roll my eyes and leave the room while my boss snickers. We had pretty similar senses of humor, and neither of us particularly like Jane. She's caused various messes over her month or two in charge that we've had to clean up, including a time I had to travel to a different city on a day off to fix a problem she'd caused with our computer systems. A pain for me because I wanted to relax that day, and a pain for the company because they had to pay me double for the overtime and double again for it being on a bank holiday, 2 hours of which were just getting a train there and back. At least it got me nearly a week's wages for about half a day of actual work. Anyway, some 10 minutes later, I've had a scan through the emails, mostly between Jay and the supervisor, and it's looking like a pretty airtight case when Nate walks into the office. We go into one of the private offices with another admin to take the minutes and get ourselves started. Me. Hi, I'm OP. This is other admin. Pleasure to meet you. We're just doing an investigatory meeting today, gathering information in order to make an informed decision, etc., etc. Do you know why you've been brought in for this meeting? Nate. Yeah, it's because I didn't turn up on date. I'm really sorry. My wife kicked me out of the house on Thursday evening. I was trying to find somewhere to live, so I didn't even think about calling the office until Sunday. Me. Okay, that's somewhat understandable why that happened then, but the office kept trying to call you. Why didn't you answer your phone? Nate. I didn't get any calls. Well, not unless they were calling my house, but I didn't get any calls on my mobile phone. Yeah, that sounds like the kind of thing their branch would do. Me. Okay, we'll confirm that with the branch and check if we have your mobile number in the system. Next question, why did you not turn up the next week? Nate. What do you mean? Uh-oh. Me. Jane gave you a rota after you called on Sunday for the next week, shows him the rota, which you never showed up for. Nate. No, she didn't. She told me not to go to work until I come in for a meeting with her about Friday. This meeting. Oh, crap. She can't have seriously forgotten to tell me that, can she? Me. Okay, do you have anything we can use to prove that? Nate. Yeah, she sent it to me in an email. Let me get it up on my phone. I finished the meeting up pretty quickly after that, also finding out that in 30 years in the care business, he'd not once had a disciplinary and was terrified he was going to be fired. I calmed him down and told him that he wasn't going to be fired today, and I couldn't say for sure about whether he would be in the disciplinary, but if he's telling the truth, he most certainly won't be. I went back to my desk to continue the investigation when both Dave and Jane came over. Jane, so how'd the investigation go? What did he say? As I turned to face Jane, I looked at Dave. He knows if I look at him before answering someone that he needs to play along and I'll fill him in later. I spread a rueful smile across my face. Me. I'm sorry, Jane, but I can't discuss ongoing investigations. You know, company policy and all that. Quality and Compliance Director would have my head if he found out. This was a total lie, but if I tell people something is company policy, they almost always believe me. I'm the only person sad enough to have read all 8 lever arch files of our company's policies and procedures instead of just looking them up when I need them. Anyway, the lie was enough to drive her off to do some actual work, maybe, in another office so I could do my investigating. I called a director I was friendly with and convinced them to make sure N's leave while the investigation was ongoing would be paid so he could try to sort himself out a bit without worrying about money too. I called our finance department and asked them to request a log of calls made from the new office that Friday from our telecom supplier. I logged into our career tracking software to look at what emails had been sent, when calls had been assigned, and what data they had on Nate. I also read the emails I'd been given in more detail. A week later, I sat down with Jane, Nate, and 2 of the directors, D1 and D2, who'd gotten involved. That second day Nate had missed had ended up costing the branch a package worth nearly £4,000 a week, which at the time was about a third of the money it was making, and meant they'd started out losing money, so the board of directors wanted it resolved there and then. I started with the basic facts. Nate had missed the first Friday due to problems at home, gotten in contact Sunday, but claimed no one had gotten in contact with him and that he'd been told not to come in the following Friday. Jane snorted at this. Her face fell when I revealed what my investigation had uncovered, though. The call log showed 8 calls had been made to his home phone, but none to his mobile. The reason for this was that Nate's mobile number wasn't in the system, as the branch didn't have a full-time admin yet. Acquiring and entering this data was Jane's responsibility. Nate's rota for that week hadn't been emailed by anyone in the company, and the calls had been assigned to him on Wednesday of that week by Jane. Best of all, the emails Jane had handed to me contained one confirming he would not be working until an investigation had been completed, or more accurately, it said, "Don't come in until we arrange a meeting." Jane: "Well, I suppose I made some small mistakes, but..." D1: Small mistakes? You lost a £4,000 package because you couldn't do your job properly. Jane: We're a small branch just getting started. There's bound to be a couple of hitches. D2: A couple? With this, D2 pulled a thick ring binder out of his bag and dropped it on the table. I really enjoyed listening to that thud. D2, these are complaints we've received from your staff and other managers about you. We need to have a long talk. I helped them set up a call with our legal consultants before Ann and I left. I told Nate that the initial Friday meant that he was still to have a disciplinary meeting, but I'd put in a word to make sure it was as lenient as possible. I think he ended up with a verbal warning. When I walked into Dave's office, he was grinning like the Cheshire Cat. Dave, pretty sure everyone in the office heard D1 there. Me, can assume you're responsible for the big old file of complaints? Dave, well, one or two, but I did get the ball rolling. She did say she wanted someone fired after all. I met the new manager for the branch about a week later. He managed to get them back in the black pretty quickly and hasn't bothered me outside of a few issues getting emails on his laptop, so he's all right in my book. Great story, artfully told. Glad everyone got what they deserved. And our last story. Building a house on my property? Now it's mine for free. My neighbor screwed up when building his house and put his entire house within my property, a large tract of land with 2 huge glades connected by 2 roads, but separated by a large isthmus of trees. I didn't notice because I took 8 months off right after as soon as he started construction. The lot is huge. I didn't go and inspect it often. So I got a real estate lawyer and surveyors to confirm that the lot was my property. I was going to sell him the lot for a good price until I went to talk to him, and he turned out to be the biggest jerk I'd ever met. He basically said that he was going to sue me for setting him up, even though I didn't know him or meet him until that day. His wife flipped on me and my girlfriend as we drove out of their driveway. 4 months later, I sued him, saying he had to destroy the property or immediately give it to me. Demolishing the house would have cost him more, and return the property to its original condition, so he passed the house to me. He was still out of the construction costs. I lived in a 1-story house with my girlfriend. Then I had a brand new 2,600 square foot house with all the water, electricity, and cable connections for free. Got the land for almost nothing and sold it for almost 50 times the price. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.